Welcome to the Making Sense Podcast. This is Sam Harris. Okay, end of the year is upon us. I'm going to talk a little bit about Twitter and Elon and free speech here. The end of my year was marked by, among other things, my deleting my Twitter account. This has been surprisingly significant. I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, on other people's podcasts, but it was really like leaving a bad relationship. And psychologically, it was a pretty interesting thing to do. But Twitter has been everywhere, showing signs of chaos everywhere in the press. So I feel like I should take a few minutes to reflect on what I think is happening there and how it relates to what's happening in American society generally. Twitter is, in many ways, the seat of our societal dysfunction. Social media is surely the seat of that. But Twitter, in particular, because journalists and politicians appear immovably anchored to it. But as I'm going to say a few things about Elon, let me just confess my uncertainty about doing this. As I've said, or implied before, Elon has been a friend. I'm not sure what the status of that friendship is now, frankly. And that has a lot to do with Twitter. And I've had to confront this problem before. I've had many friends, and now former friends, who have large public platforms, and who have said and done things in public over the years that I have found fairly reprehensible, and I had to figure out whether to say good things like that. And I'm still uncertain about the ethics of all of this. I don't know what having friendship or former friendship should count for at moments like this. My default is certainly to more carefully calibrate what I say, or even whether I say anything at all in these cases. Whereas if there's a stranger out there doing the analogous thing, I'll say something without much reflection about that. And I'm not sure which way the balance should swing. Should I be treating strangers more like friends? Should I be treating friends and former friends more like strangers? I honestly don't know what the answer is. But in the case of Elon, he's taking up so much bandwidth culturally that I feel like I have to say something. I just wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't comment on what he's doing over there at Twitter. So for better or worse, I'm going to do that now. First, the underlying politics of the moment. In my view, there's a needle you really had to thread over the last half-decade or so if you were going to be politically honest and ethically sane. And not that many people managed it. On the one side, you had to recognize how bad Trump was and is. Not just as a person, but as a cultural phenomenon. You had to see how appalling it was that we elected such a person to the presidency. And then you had to be further appalled when we almost did it again, even while he was disavowing and openly violating the most sacred principle of our democracy, a commitment to the peaceful transfer of power. His behavior before, during, and after the events of January 6th amounted to a direct attack on the rule of law in this country. This was the first time in our history that a president has sought to hold on to power in this way. It was absolutely obvious at the time, but it has only become more obvious on the basis of subsequent investigations that Trump knew he lost the 2020 election, and he put our democracy at risk by attempting to hold on to power, by perpetrating a conscious fraud of election denial, and among other things, attempting to force his vice president, Mike Pence, to overturn the results of the election on January 6th. The real Trump derangement syndrome was not to have seen how bad all this was. Indeed, to not have seen how demonic Trumpism was and is in its cultic embrace of one man's mediocrity and mendacity and narcissism. I mean, it is just astounding that a person like Trump got anywhere near the Oval Office. To have missed that, and to have thought all the concern about Trump was exaggerated, that it was just ordinary partisan politics, that was, in my view, the greatest political mistake anyone could have made in my lifetime. And if you made that mistake, if you persist in that mistake even now, well then, everything I've said on the subject must seem like some bewildering form of performance art. On the other side, you also had to see that in many important respects, the left, and therefore the Democratic Party, lost its mind and succumbed to an identitarian moral panic. Of course, some of this was in response to Trump, and some of the justification for Trump was a reaction to the hysteria and dishonesty of the left. Each side, by being crazy and dishonest, seemed to justify, or at least explain, the excesses of the other. But to not have seen, or cared, that our mainstream cultural institutions were being vitiated by woke nonsense and thought policing was to have been blind to the second most important political phenomenon in recent years. And the crucial piece, and this really is the crucial piece, is that an awareness of one of these problems, however vivid, did not compensate for one's ignorance of the other. Many, many people had half the story and made a lot of noise about half the story. And by focusing on only half the story, they carried water for the liars and grifters and maniacs on the other side. There are many, many people with enormous platforms who have spent years railing against wokeness, appropriately, but they've never made the most basic concessions to moral and political sanity in their comments about Trump. And of course, there are countless people in the mainstream media who have the opposite problem. The truth is, I remain completely mystified by both sets of people. It seems to me that social media, and Twitter in particular, has always been at the heart of this confusion. People got radicalized by their own audience. Nothing gets the dopamine going like dunking on the other side. Though I closed my Twitter account a few weeks ago, people have been sending me things they think I should see. And as I said, I bump into the evidence of Twitter everywhere in news articles now. And I've also looked at some of the Twitter files releases that are only available on Twitter. Now, apparently Elon was dunking on me after I closed my account, and obviously misunderstanding my views about Trump and the Hunter Biden laptop story, along with everyone else. He said something suggesting that though I wrote a book against lying, I now believe that it was ethical and even necessary to lie to try to deny Trump the presidency. He surely got that impression from the 2-minute clip from the Trigonometry podcast that went viral in right-wing circles. Of course, this is symptomatic of the very problem at issue. I believe that clip was made by an anti-vax lunatic and then spread to the ends of the earth by a Pizzagate lunatic, and it misrepresents what I clearly meant in the context of that interview. In any case, I've never suggested that it was ethical, much less necessary to lie to resist Trump. All I said was that I understood the impulse to ignore the Hunter Biden laptop story until after the 2020 election, because it had been dropped as an October surprise, purposely close to the election, so there would be just enough time for the controversy over it to detonate and have its intended effect, and not enough time to debunk it, if it could be debunked. The emergence of the laptop definitely looked shady. It looked like it could be disinformation, and there was every reason to be circumspect about it. This wasn't a choice of consciously withholding the God-honest truth, much less lying about it, in order to sway an ordinary election. It was a choice to ignore a very murky story for a few weeks, in the face of an election that was already being disputed, even before it was run, by a sociopathic president who would not commit to a peaceful transfer of power. Waiting on the story did not in any way entail lying. And in any case, all I said on that podcast was that I was undecided about the propriety of ignoring the story. And frankly, I still am. And I was even more uncertain about Twitter actively suppressing it. In fact, I agree that in retrospect, that was obviously the wrong call. But this is obvious only in retrospect. However, it was troublesome even at the time. And the leaked Twitter files showed that Twitter employees were conflicted about it at the time. And the rationale they used, that the New York Post story may have relied on hacked information, was pretty weak, even at the time. And I completely understand the outrage that people feel over Twitter suspending the New York Post account. That has always seemed qualitatively different to me than other journalists simply deciding not to take Rudy Giuliani's bait and just ignoring the story until after the election. But now the laptop story has been fully aired, hasn't it? The contents of that hard drive have been picked over by everyone, certainly everyone right of center. Have there been any bombshells? Did it prove some terrible level of corruption on the part of Joe Biden? It certainly doesn't seem that way. What's the big story? Now that our democracy isn't hanging in the balance, I would love to hear it. I've clarified my position on all that repeatedly, and yet Elon can't figure out what it actually is. Because like most people, he's seen a 2-minute clip from the podcast, and he imagines that its meaning is self-evident. This simply is one of the problems with Twitter. And now Elon, through the journalists Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss and others, has been releasing internal Twitter documents, the so-called Twitter files, which show that certain political entities, like the DNC, asked Twitter to block various tweets, including material related to Hunter Biden. Not the laptop story itself, but nude pictures of him taken from the laptop. I don't think it's been reported that anyone outside of Twitter urged them to block the New York Post story. Taibbi even said that there was, quote, no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. Of course, most people on the right, including red-pilled Elon, are acting like the opposite is the case, that there was clear government suppression of free speech. In fact, Elon tweeted that Twitter had acted, quote, under orders from the government to suppress free speech with no judicial review, end quote. That appears to be just false. And from what I've seen, Elon's editorial comments on the Twitter files more or less reliably misrepresent the information that is actually leaked. Anyway, it does seem relevant to point out that Biden wasn't president at the time, so requests for the removal of tweets were not coming from the people in power. And when the FBI contacted Twitter and other social media platforms, warning that there might be some Russian disinformation coming that was related to Hunter Biden, and this is being perceived as a smoking gun on the right, this was Trump's FBI, run by a Trump appointee. Surely that muddies the picture of a hyper-partisan deep state seeking to undermine an election. And the background fact is that it was totally plausible to be worried about Russian hacking at that moment, because there was a ton of it. And there was pushback at Twitter. There was a lot of communication between Twitter and the FBI. The Twitter Files journalists have now moved the goalposts in response to this. First, it was a story of how corrupt Twitter was. You're not going to believe how corrupt. But now it's a story of how corrupt and Orwellian the FBI is. And Twitter's resistance to the meddling of the FBI is now evidence of that. Right? So this is a very mixed picture. Even if Biden had been president at the time, and the requests came directly from him, it matters that they were just requests, not ultimatums backed up by force. If Biden, as president, called Twitter and said, if you don't take those naked photos of my son down, I'm going to destroy your company, okay, now we've landed in First Amendment territory. Nothing I've seen related to the Twitter files amounts to coercion from a government source. Also, Taibbi reports that the Trump administration made similar requests, and Trump was president at the time. Again, if Trump was just making requests, as much as I'd love to say he was stifling free speech, I can't, because he wasn't. This is not government censorship. The Twitter files definitely revealed less than optimal ways in which Twitter employees were stifling conversation on the platform. For instance, they throttled the tweets from Jay Bhattacharya, a Stanford doctor who was skeptical of school closures and other COVID policies. And they did this to many other doctors. That just seems genuinely dysfunctional. And I completely understand how millions of people who have felt gaslit by the government and by the mainstream media and by Twitter itself with respect to COVID information, especially the many people who were abandoned and shunned undeservedly. I get why many of them now view Elon as a white knight riding to the rescue. But think of what was actually happening when these doctors were getting deboosted or even suspended by Twitter. First, their tweets were being flagged by bots designed to detect COVID misinformation, of which there was a veritable deluge. And then when flagged, these tweets got reviewed by outsourced reviewers, often in the Philippines, who were simply not qualified to judge the veracity of medical information. Almost no one was qualified to do this at the time, inside or outside of Twitter, because COVID has been a moving target for years. And what made perfect sense 1 month made much less sense 2 months later, and vice versa. Now, I will fully grant that some of Twitter's editorial decisions, along with the government's urging of those decisions, now seem suspect. But what did you expect these institutions to be doing during a time of total information chaos, when we had people with enormous platforms, and even a sitting U.S. president, trafficking in lies about everything, and the lies and half-truths were coming down in torrents, day and night, for months on end. And we really did have a global pandemic that was killing millions of people. And we really do have a continuous problem of cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns to deal with. And we really do have people saying that vaccines are microchipping us, and that COVID itself is just a pretext for the crashing down of some new world order. And there really was an early expectation that the mRNA vaccines would prevent disease transmission. And there really was uncertainty about how lethal the disease actually was. And it really does seem, even now, that vaccine hesitancy was killing a lot of people. What do you expect compassionate and responsible people in institutions to do at that point? And there will always be edge cases, especially during a public health emergency. And edge cases will be, by definition, very hard to deal with. That's why they're edge cases. So from what I've seen of the Twitter files, the general picture was of people at Twitter in way over their heads, trying to steer a dangerous machine that really can't be steered without causing a fair amount of pain and controversy somewhere. But it can't be allowed to fly freely either. We have a persistent problem in determining valid sources of information, and especially doing this quickly when it matters. And if you think the solution is to just let the cacophony unfold, algorithmically boosted by a business model that is preferentially fueled by partisan outrage and crowdsourced hysteria, where medical misinformation spreads faster than real science, where election denialism spreads faster than any patient debunking of it ever could. Okay, that is where we have been, and it has been a disaster. So at the moment, I still haven't seen anything in the Twitter files that rises to the level of an infringement of the First Amendment. What is clear, however, is that with each subsequent release, Elon and his hand-picked journalists are spinning the information in fairly tendentious ways. From what I can tell, Bari Weiss has been the exception to this. She was careful to not seem like she was just doing PR for Elon. And for that, Elon seems to no longer like her. But if Elon's goal was simple transparency, he should have just released the files and let journalists everywhere draw their own conclusions. However, the deeper issue is that this whole controversy seems basically fake. Twitter simply isn't the public square. It only seems like the public square to people who are addicted to it. And basically every journalist is addicted to it. I mean, ask yourself, is Reddit the public square? Is Instagram? Is TikTok? If someone gets kicked off of Reddit, have they been unpersecuted? If the U.S. government bans TikTok as a nefarious piece of CCP spyware, as it almost certainly is, will that be the end of our democracy? Not being on any of these platforms, I think it's obvious that they're not the public square. Again, if we want to change the laws and designate one or all of these services to be no longer private, and to make them analogous to some digital street corner that everyone has a legal right to inhabit, we are free to do that. And there may even be an argument for doing some version of that. But that is not where we currently are. Anyway, recent weeks have shown that the so-called free speech absolutists, including Elon, can't possibly take their own absolutism seriously. Elon has admitted that Twitter will be throttling negative speech, under the rubric that freedom of speech doesn't entail freedom of reach. Great. Okay, this is identical to my observation that algorithmically boosted speech isn't normal speech. No one has a constitutional right to have their speech algorithmically boosted. I obviously agree with Elon's apparent policy on this point, but it is an absolute repudiation of what many people were hoping for from his tenure at Twitter, and it's a repudiation of the results he claimed to be delivering. That's worth noticing. If you have the wrong political opinions, like maybe you're a Nazi, Elon intends to make your speech virtually unseen and unheard on Twitter. Or he might just kick you off the platform. I mean, he decided to kick Kanye off Twitter again because he tweeted a weird swastika inside of a Jewish star. Honestly, that was further than I would have gone. Elon said that this violated Twitter's policy about calling for violence. But I don't actually see a swastika in any form as a clear call for violence. So I think I'd be more of a free speech absolutist than Elon in this case. Anyway, the deeper point is that Elon knew that Kanye was an unhinged anti-Semite when he made a great show of letting him back on Twitter. What did he think was going to happen? Admittedly, it was surprising to see Kanye show up on Alex Jones's crazy show in a gimp hood, praising Hitler. Even Alex Jones appeared shocked by that. But still, we knew where Kanye stood on the Jews a long time ago. And then there was all the craziness around Elon suspending the accounts of the kid who was tracking his private jet, along with the private jets of other celebrities. This college kid had created a bot which did nothing more than aggregate publicly available information. The problem was Elon had previously used this kid as an example of his unalloyed commitment to free speech. He said, look, I'm even protecting the speech of this guy who is tracking my plane and increasing my security concerns, only to then suspend the kid's account, along with the accounts of real journalists who had merely reported on the story. Okay, I'm totally sympathetic with Elon's security concerns here. Having the exact GPS coordinates and arrival time of his plane continuously published vastly increases his personal security risks, as well as those of his family. I'm not sure why this information is publicly available in the first place. I think it probably shouldn't be. But Elon is making himself look ridiculous by trumpeting his free speech absolutism, only to then rescind it without acknowledging the apparent hypocrisy. And the resulting ad hoc policy that he's now supposedly implementing, that no real-time information about the whereabouts of people will be tolerated, just seems impossible to enforce or even to adequately define. I mean, there's obviously a ton of celebrity coverage that is publicity. or legitimate journalism, or just random fun information, which could suddenly look like the quote, real-time doxing that Elon is worried about. Anyway, despite the fact that he's being hailed as some kind of radical champion of free speech, and he's hailing himself that way, Elon is finding that he simply has to make the same judgment calls that any platform has to make if it doesn't want to turn into 4chan. And he's not playing 4D chess here. He's quite obviously making everything up as he goes along, which honestly is fine. It might be impossible to make Twitter a good place for communication. I'm not going to fault Elon for failing to do the impossible. What I do fault him
$500 doing that.
That's not a lot.
They get on Tinder, they get a free steak dinner, they go to class, they plan their Friday, Saturday around which guy is going to like fly around, and that's like a quarter of girls on college campuses. That's not how it's going. And then to what you were saying about how like, oh well, girls are, you know, the ones that aren't international, they're just fucking the top guys on their college campuses. What's the difference between that now and over the past 100 years? There have always been like top men in every area of life. You're never in an area in life where it's just one guy and one girl and you're isolated from everybody else. You're always in jobs where there's our bosses and managers and CEOs. You're always in colleges or schools where there are top performing students or athletes. You're always in communities where there are the leaders of the community. Like, this has always been the history of competing in society for women. There's nothing new today about that, aside from maybe some girls on Instagram. But I don't think it's the 20 to 30 to 40% or whatever that Fresh said are getting flown around the world to fuck guys. That's insane.
What I'm saying is that it's opened up, and it used to be a dating marketplace where it was just localized. Now it's globalized. And I'm not saying they're actually going out and flying with these guys, but they have the option to do it. Yeah. And that does a lot for a person's psyche when they know this is the caliber of guy that's reaching out to me. You know, I'm gonna put that in my back pocket and use that validation to make myself feel a certain way. And this is why girls, again, in the book I talk about this explicitly. Women on Tinder and Bumble, they spend several hours on the site. However, most girls never either don't swipe right, or they never actually go on a date, but they spend a ridiculous amount of time on Tinder. Why? Well, it's because attention, validation helps boost their ego. A lot of girls I've seen create a Tinder account after getting broken up with just so they can feel better.
Yeah, I'm sure some people do
some
it.
guys do it.
The problem is that we talk about
a lot of men do that too.
So overstated. The problem is so overstated. And then you feed these people these narratives that like, yeah, people have this idea that like you're just fucked in the dating room. You can't compete.
Girls go on Tinder to get attention.
No,
big difference.
It's the same thing.
The guy goes on Tinder with the express intent of meeting the girl and having sex with the girl. The girl goes on Tinder for the express intent of talking to that guy and never reciprocating physically.
Do you not know how many thirsty bitches are out there? Like, a lot of girls go on there just to
Women swipe right on Tinder 4.5% of the time. Tell me that's not that attention whoring, bro.
Look at a guy go on Tinder. This is what it looks like. Not the same for girls.
And they swipe right on 4.5, and the flake rate at that 4.5% is somewhere between 53 to 70%. Women flake.
Unless if she does go on a date, she might get turned off. So nothing will happen.
Girls universally
have you seen
use
the girls
dating
that are
apps.
in Miami?
They use dating apps to funnel people to OnlyFans or to get attention.
Anything. They just.
Hold on, are you on Tinder?
I am not on Tinder, but I know a lot of girls that are, and they literally just go to fuck. Like,
really?
It's not to have any emotional connection or to get any. It's literally to fuck. Yes.
How many girls do you know that use Tinder to fuck, as you would say?
More than 10. Yeah.
Of your friends?
Okay, wait, hold on. Dude, I feel like you guys have no fucking real world experience. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, okay? I'm not the most... Yeah, apparently the only one here that
And now you're real world there, guy, gaming all day, okay.
I'm 10 years older than you, okay? You've got like 6 years in the adult world.
Well, you said
barely.
for them to
Because you've been YouTubing your entire life. You haven't even lived a real life yet, okay?
They're the same age as you.
So,
you game all day, but you have more life experience.
That's great. Okay, so if you go to California as a normal guy, okay, without putting my fucking socials or anything on Tinder, it's a hard game. You're swiping a lot and you're doing a lot of conversations, but I was fucking girls on Tinder in California. And I'm not like a fucking rip
What year?
Chad.
What year? How long ago?
Like, I lived in California. I lived in Glendale 4 years ago, Culver City 3 years ago, Huntington Beach 2 years ago.
When were you killing it on Tinder?
And not killing it, but like I could probably find like 1 to 2 girls a month.
What year was this?
What?
What year was this?
Like in the past like 2, 3, 4 years. 2, 3, 4 years ago. You can do it as a guy.
No.
But bro, half you guys on Tinder have you've got random pictures of fucking mountains. You've got blurry fucking selfies. You've got like a picture of you in the dark corner of the room where you look like a fucking sociopath. And the guys will come out. No, hold on. These perfect guys will come out. These like 5'11" dudes that look perfectly fine will be like, oh, I'm not 6'2". Like, oh, I can't fucking get any girls. They're hypergamous. Blah blah blah. Like, no, motherfucker, you either act weird, your pictures fucking suck, or you're not putting any effort in. You get shot down by 2 girls on Tinder, and you spend the rest of your life browsing like red pill videos talking about how like all women are shit or whatever. Like that's what happens.
Destiny, your own explanation of 1 to 2 a month, maybe, says a lot. Dude, guys are struggling, bro. Especially on Tinder, bro.
Okay, apparently in college?
famous,
wait,
bro.
hold on. You think
famous.
the average guy is like, if they could fuck 1 or 2 different girls a month, they wouldn't be happy?
No, if they can. If you're saying that you did, that doesn't mean that they can.
Wait, no, okay. I'm not trying to be too self-deprecating, okay?
And you're also famous, Destiny.
I'm not no, that was without social because I didn't want to find people that found me through my fucking stream.
But the girls did research, bro. I promise.
How are you gonna fucking find me through research?
Yo, a girl can look at your Tinder profile, put your face into this app, which will go ahead and link you to social
I use
media.
different pictures. It's I can obviously tell when a girl knows me or don't. There were a couple that I would meet up and they would say some shit. You could say no cap all you want, but there are a ton of people that fucking use Tinder. There are a ton of people that hook up. I wasn't that famous 3 or 4 years ago. I've blown up a lot over the past like year or two. Or we could do the alternative, which is
we can't compare you to a regular guy.
Hold on. A normal guy fucking on Tinder. That's unbelievable. But 40% of women on an Iowa, Kansas City fucking college campus are getting flown out to fucking Dubai to fuck. That's the world we're in right now. Just to be clear, that's what we're saying is normal. Okay?
I meant all schools around America. I didn't just say Iowa. Okay.
Even though all schools around the world, the number's less than 1%.
And they may have options. Doesn't mean that they're actually going to do it. I'm just saying the possibility is there that they can actually do it.
They've been offered.
Okay.
They've been offered.
All right. I don't want to cap or dominate the topic.
No, it's fine. I mean, like I said, but I mean, the Tinder and the dating app stats are, bro, they're universal. And I agree with you. A big part of the reason why guys fail is because their pictures do suck. There is accountability there. However, a woman can take shitty pictures and still kill it on Tinder versus
Kill
a guy
it with
can't.
fucking, not with finding relationships, though. You have to keep remembering our goals are different. Guys are looking for sex. Girls are usually looking for relationships. So, of course, like, girls can kill it on Instagram from the guy's perspective, but not from the woman's perspective.
But remember, they're still getting the opportunity to get the relationship. The man never gets an opportunity, period.
You know, but it's a totally different set of problems, right?
You know what?
Like, guys don't know what it's like trying to curve a girl. That might be like a fuck girl. That term doesn't even exist, right? Whereas girls might have like 15 different fucking tests to find out if a guy is serious or not. And not to mention there's the whole like safety shit that comes up too. Like, it's totally different games that we play when it comes to hooking up with
But
people.
at least they get the opportunity. That's my point.
You guys have the opportunity. You just gotta make the opportunity happen.
Right? Let's ask them how they feel about this whole dating topic of dating apps and Instagram.
Wait, let me say one final thing, and then you can go around, okay? You said something earlier that I 100% agree with, and I wish people would focus on it more. I think for the majority of human history, men needed to bring one thing to the table to get almost any girl they wanted, and that's an income. That was the only fucking work that we had to put in. Whereas women, from birth, are trained to do a lot of things around the household, usually, especially in more traditional countries. Like, women are cleaning the house, they're taking care of siblings, they're like doing all this shit around, you know, they're being trained by mom, and like the boys are treated as like little princes. They have to do good in school, and they gotta do that shit. But for the most part, like, men just need to get a job, and then you get a woman. Because women can't work. But now that women have finally gotten to work, right? Women have also been putting in all this work, like emotionally, to figure out how to manage their friends, to do all that bullshit or whatever, stuff that men typically don't care about because we didn't have to. But now we're in the world where we go out to the dating market, we're like, hey, I've got an income. And a woman's like, okay, and what else? And you're like, fuck. My dad didn't train me for this. Nobody in society is talking about this because men traditionally haven't had to compete in other areas. So I think the important thing is to tell men, hey, don't be a schizoid, autistic fucking loser. Learn how to, like, take care of your house. You should be able to do dishes and do the laundry.
Of course.
Have more than, like, one fucking piece of furniture in your whole apartment. Okay? Don't piss all over the fucking toilet seat when you're at somebody's house. If you bring a girl over, have a trash can in the fucking bath. Like, basic human things that a lot of guys...
really obvious stuff. When you start making money, all of this
it's
comes
not
into
obvious.
play. If you're going to become a high earner, you need to be clean. You need to have a nice place.
No,
you
you don't. You don't have to do any of that shit. Dude, the average high earner now is a fucking schizoid work-from-home tech bro in San Francisco that probably wears the same outfit for a week straight because he doesn't have to go outside ever. What do you mean?
Well, to be fair, he is right. Most guys don't know how to be cleanly. They don't know how to like do stuff around the house. However,
high earners?
No, average people.
I'm saying like getting money in the process of becoming successful, all that stuff gets better too.
You think the average crypto finance bro is like put together really well, or the average like
you know
software
talk a lot about
developer?
the real world and real world experience. Is the average high earner a crypto bro?
The average high earner right now is probably doing fucking work from home shit after COVID. I think there's a lot of work from home office work. I don't know if that's the average, but I know it's probably disproportionately overrepresented there.
Ladies,
people like programmers here. Okay, go ahead.
In your dating experience, right? Let's just go from part one. Dating apps and Instagram, right? What's your experience? Is it true that guys are like getting laid all the time? What do you think? And then, for example, do you hit up every guy to just smash only, or is it for something else?
Like, definitely not. I don't know. I feel like it's equal. Like, women and men both go on dating apps, and it's either if they want to fuck or they want a relationship. I don't.
What are you going for?
I don't go on it, first of all. I don't.
What about Instagram?
Instagram? Instagram because I take pictures. And
guys don't hit you up and say, hey, I want to take you out?
Of course.
Who do you respond to? Who do you respond to? Do you ever like take them serious? Like, what's that?
If you look at my DMs, there's a bunch of unread messages. To be honest, I'm really working on myself right now. So right now, nah. Maybe in like a year or whenever like I'm ready, then I'll look.
Man, nipples you capping, man. All right, go ahead. What about you? Stop the nip. Stop the nip. Chips and dip.
All right, she might need you to rethink.
Okay, so dating apps. Do you use them? Why do you think girls use them and guys use them? And then For example, do you go on dating apps or no?
No, I don't go on dating apps. I tried it once. To be honest, it's bullshit. Like, I don't use it. I wouldn't like refer anybody to use it. I feel like men go in there to fuck, women go in there to fuck. The only thing is, if the sex is good, she might want a relationship out of it after that. But anything else, everybody's just going on there to fuck.
Do you genuinely think a majority of women go on dating apps to fuck? Realistically speaking?
Realistically speaking, yeah. Because at the end of the day, the guy has to be attractive enough for me to want to fuck him.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm only going, mind you, and on the dating apps, I only see pictures of these people. So physically, I'm attracted to you enough to fuck you to want to be in your face for a long time. But mentally, I don't know what the fuck you have going on in your brain.
What if I told you women never meet up with the guys they match up with most of the time?
Oh, most of them. But the ones they do, they do want to fuck.
Yeah.
That is
So
true.
at the end of the day, it's more selective than men, but they do want to fuck the guys. They're on there. It's super.
But she's saying a majority of women are on online dating apps to have sex. I would argue a majority of women are on dating apps to get attention.
Well, they're just as selective on the dating
And the
apps.
numbers reflect that.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers reflect to the real life experiences too. Like most guys that come up to girls in public, they get rejected. The same thing applies to dating apps. Like they're gonna fuck the guys that they meet up with, but ultimately they're just more selective.
I would say dating apps are less forgiving. And the
I think
reason
you gotta
why
be
is because
careful.
dating apps are strictly looks. A girl's gonna left swipe. Like if you're ugly and you go up to a girl in person, at least you can make up for it with charisma, status. Maybe you are charming, just dress well, you smell well. But on a dating app, it's only your picture. And
I
most
think
guys
dating
suck at
apps is
taking
mostly
pictures.
Riz. I think it's mostly like the first couple of messages. If
Nah,
I can
bro.
make her laugh, if I do a pickup
Nah,
line.
bro.
I think
no.
pictures are
If you're ugly, you might get a swipe right.
For you can, but average guy can't.
No, but most of the matches where I don't put any effort, I just go head, question mark, I get blocked or something like that.
Nigga, you're a chat.
Nigga,
No, I get blocked when I skip all the bullshit. When I do no Riz and I don't play a game, I just go head, question mark, they're like, fuck you! But then I actually have played people.
in public, people know who you are. Come on, man.
I don't think
And also they swipe right.
what did you guys do with this?
No,
Big
it's not that.
disagreement.
Well, no. It's not that. It's that they swipe right on you in the first place because you're a handsome guy, Paul.
Oh.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And,
Okay, but
and you
that's
look
good.
tall as well. Anyhow,
Yeah.
You had a point?
I was gonna say, I think the dating app matters. Like, if a girl's on Tinder, she probably knows that the people that are looking more to fuck than if she's on like fucking Bumble or some other shit.
It does
too, right?
matter.
Yeah, for sure. Because why a lot of girls are on Tinder is just to push their OnlyFans or their Instagram. For fun.
But that's a lower majority.
No, I'm not on any dating apps or anything like that. I don't do that.
Instagram.
What about my
That's the
Instagram?
number one dating.
Guys can jump on there too, so what about that?
Actually, every time I don't really like do that.
She about to lie. Here we go.
No, for real. Like honestly, I don't really do the whole online thing. I would prefer like a in-person meeting. Like if I meet you in person, like we click
You've never been on a date with a guy that hit you up on Instagram?
Never?
Come on, man.
one time, and that's it.
11 times.
Where do you meet guys? Where do you meet
only
guys
one time.
normally? That's the question.
In person.
like,
I'd rather.
like at your job or at like just
No,
around,
like
or...
like for example, if I'm walking around or like they just happen to like talk to me and
So you're walking down the street, a guy sees you and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" You
Nice
chat for a little bit.
and I mean if we click, you know. If
Are
we
you saying
don't.
you're dating someone now, or
I am not dating.
You're not
I'm
dating
single.
someone?
Yeah.
where did you meet your last boyfriend at? But you said it was like a 10-year relationship, right?
Yeah, I was in a
He ran down on you?
what do you mean?
He came up to you in public, outside?
Actually, I was the one who initiated it.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Actually, I was with his friend, and I was like, "Hey, you know him?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, I think he's gonna be the father of my kids." And I shot my shot.
What did you say?
I messaged him. Actually, I called his friend, and I was like, "Hey, do you think you could give me the phone number of your friend because I need a favor, and I kind of want to talk to him."
What a stalker.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, when I like something, I like something.
So, question: is he the father of your kids?
yes.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you got what you
You have
wanted.
kids?
Yeah, I have 2 kids.
With that guy?
With this, yeah.
Yeah, that's what just happened.
I know.
Yeah.
And you were still calling him a loser and abusing him?
I never called him a loser.
And you said you're being an asshole.
I was a little bit of an asshole.
You have 2 kids, nigga.
I know.
What else do you want?
But is that an accomplishment? Is that
look,
hard to do?
I'm not.
That's the father of your kids.
Okay, so
You can
this
still
is
be a
why I
loser.
said-
You can be.
Yeah, but
This is why I said that I.
Well, she did
have,
say he had money and he was attractive. And stuff.
No,
I don't know.
this is why I said that I have fucked up. As a woman, I could say that I have done my share of shit, and he's also done his share of shit. It's like a constant cycle of.
You want him back, don't you? Yeah.
The father of her kids. Yeah.
No, honestly, that chapter is done.
Would you do it for your kids though? Like if you had to get back with him, would you do it for your kids?
No.
Nah, nigga, he's free, man. Leave him alone.
He is free. He is really free. He's really
what
free.
the fuck, Chris? All right.
He
So
is
he's
really
free.
free.
So she had a full plan, action, attack to have his kids. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, what about you?
Alright, I am not on any dating apps, but I am a firm believer of that dating apps are for fucking. Straight up.
Do you use dating apps to fuck?
No!
Have you ever? How girls say it's for fucking, but none of them use it to fuck.
But not me.
Have you ever been on one?
No.
Okay, what about
I've
Instagram?
used Tinder for promoting my OnlyFans, but then I got banned off of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, niggas banned.
now.
Okay. Okay. What about you?
Not on any dating app. And yeah, honestly, I think even with Instagram and stuff, I think it's not really exactly like it's not too much of a dating spectrum on social media. I think most guys that are in my DMs, I think most guys that are in my DMs, I mostly ignore. I'm not interested. Most of the things they say gives me the ick.
Look at your life.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet them in real life.
You said most. So what makes you respond to some of them at least?
Then I'm gonna change my answer. I would say about 100% of the time, I'm not gonna DM back unless you're my friend and I know you in person and you're like, hey, you know, and I already know you. I'll probably respond. But if you're a random, I'm not gonna respond to you. I think.
So you're telling me, blue check, handsome guy, good lifestyle.
Yeah. Keep going.
But here's the thing: is even back to the last conversation.
responding, though, is the
there's
question.
not a lot of blue checks sliding in girls' DMs.
Yeah.
Average
It's
girls'
usually
DMs.
creepy dudes
I was
sending you
gonna
dick
say,
pics.
it's
Saying,
usually
like
very
stalking
bad.
you, asking you for clips of your hair.
We're saying if they do, will you respond? Keep it 1,000. Don't cap.
I mean, of course, if there's a blue check, yeah, of course, I'm not gonna
Okay,
disagree
that's
with
fair,
that. Yeah,
that's
you're
fair.
gonna respond. You're gonna be
There you go,
interested in
Destiny.
what you have. Yeah, absolutely.
So we're
Wait,
saying
I don't disagree with
But
that.
even
If
then-
there's like some famous people showing up
Yeah.
to some of these scams, they're gonna respond. I'm just saying it happens way less. Than
it really does.
I just have a
But it's the
question
option
though.
that changes the whole standard. That's why all
we didn't
girls-
just say changes the whole status. We just said she would respond.
No, she will respond, but her getting that message from a blue check changes her standard of the guy she's going to settle down with.
But
For, in
doesn't-
real life too.
Yes.
So right now, if there's like a B-list Hollywood celeb listening right now, he could fuck all of these women's lives up by just sending them all a DM saying, "Hey, what's up?"
Not
And all of
until
them.
they change your standards.
No.
We gotta look at you.
I've seen lots of videos.
That's
That's
the
the
thing.
really think
We gotta
dating
look at the
matters.
totality of the circumstances, bro. So they make their own money. Feminism is here. I deserve the best. I'm special. I get DMs from all these weird creepo guys. Oh, look, they all want me. Then I get a message from a B-list celeb. Then I get a message from an athlete. Then I get a message from here. I go to the gym. Guys are staring at me. Then I'm at the sandwich shop. This guy tries to awkwardly give me attention. Oh, another guy gave me a gift. Another guy walked in and gave me flowers just for me being here. All of this does a lot to a woman's psyche as to what she thinks she deserves and where she stands from a sexual marketplace standpoint. Like this all working in tandem changes the girl's mindset of where she
I
stands.
agree, but you did the same thing again. You always do. You're talking about the sexual marketplace. You want to talk about getting laid? I agree with you. But like a normal dude that is like really charismatic, you can make a girl laugh, make somebody feel special, listen to pay attention to conversation, all this shit. You can absolutely pull it your chest, even if she's talked to and fucked 5 different fucking celebrities. You
That guy now has to work harder to get that girl because she thinks I'm here, I've attracted this caliber of guy. I need you to entertain me, motherfucker.
Guys have always had to work hard.
Not
Every
this hard.
fucking Hollywood movie, the
true.
guy has to try hard to get the girl. It has always been like that throughout all of human history.
Hollywood's not real life.
All of it. You can't say Hollywood's not real life. The stories it tells obviously resonates with people. People don't just watch it like, oh,
Hollywood love stories. They're stalking
Hold
the
on,
girl
hold on,
behind
hold
a
on.
tree.
Statistically speaking, Destiny, I hate to say it, but male virginity has gone up significantly.
Yeah.
Men not being sexless has gone up significantly. So
that has nothing to do with again.
That's
You're
a lot to
conflating
do.
sex and relationships.
That's the same
We're talking.
thing.
It's not the same thing. They're
No, no.
totally
For
different.
women, it is.
Hold on. I got you, Destiny.
Yeah.
Let's say, right, the guy pulls it off, and that's his girl. Can he maintain
Let's say
her?
the guy what?
Let's say the guy, the average guy, is charismatic, charming, whatever, gets the girl. Can he maintain her for a long period of time after having that experience with a top guy? Can he maintain her?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, the stats don't show that. The marriage stats show that, hey, they get married as the average couple, but over time, oh, you know what? Brad was really lit. He had a great lifestyle. I'm tired of Jerry. And then they leave.
That's not her. She had
That's
2
not
kids
true.
with her dream guy. She
And
left
gone.
not even a real
That's
reason.
not. That's first. We can't comment completely on her situation, but even that, the stats aren't true. Okay, hold on, wait. I've seen those exact numbers that you're talking about, and what you guys say is this is the talking point you say. Women, the women that stay in relationships the longest are the ones that have 0 partners, and then it goes up for divorce rates for 1 partner, and that's true. But if you keep watching that graph, it goes up for 2, but then it drops after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it takes it until they get to 8 partners until the divorce rate.
6 is when it goes up significantly.
But I think 8 is when it gets past the 2 mark, is when it gets past that point. So it's not just that having more keeps it, having more partners makes it you're more likely to break up because you've had more partners. It could be the case that if you've only had like 0 or 1 or 2 partners, maybe you just got really fucking lucky and you found like the one early on. You found the perfect fucking girl or guy when you're 18 or 19, and now you're contributing to that stat of like, oh, I've only had like 0 or 1 partner and now I'm together forever. Or it could be people that are like, I'm fucking super religious, I've had 1 partner, I don't really want to fuck more because I'm a horrible fucking slut, whatever, antichrist, might do shit, and they end up staying in relationships longer than they don't like because they're religious, they feel pressure to. Well, there's a lot of other things that go into that as well. But you guys never explain why is it that a woman who's had 3 sexual partners is more likely to stay in a relationship than one with 2, or one with 4 is more likely than one with 3, or one with 5 is more likely. You don't explain that because you only talk about that graph from 0 to 2. I've seen the family study you're talking about.
It's more along the lines of 0 to 6.
0 to 6.
Yeah, well, when you graph it like that, but graphing it like that that's a disingenuous statistical analysis.
But here's the thing.
Because a graph that goes like this can't have a curve, an R squared drawn like this. It's not
because it becomes substantial and becomes significant after 6. That's why I refer to it that way. Because yes, I do. You are right. It does deviate to a degree, but it's not that significant. It's after 6 that it starts to drop off precipitously.
Sure, but I think that a more honest analysis when you're looking at data like that is people with 0 to 2 partners are probably people that are incredibly selective, maybe people with really traditional religious backgrounds, and therefore probably are more likely to stay in relationships the longer, even if they're not happy. When you get to the 6, 7 plus, these are probably people that like to fuck around a lot, that don't really care about like the sanctity of marriage or any of that shit, so they're probably more likely to divorce if they get married. I think that that's a more fair analysis than saying, once a girl's had 6 dicks in her, she's never going to stay with the same fucking guy. I think that's more fair.
Here's the thing. Everything comes back to the totality of the circumstances. So like what I said before, as far as like girls wanting, having a lot of options or whatever, and then not settling or wanting a guy that's way above them, it comes back to, that's why I said, not only dating apps, not only Instagram, not only social media, but also feminism coming in and girls making their own money has played a significant role in that. Women being educated also has played a role in that.
100%.
So I look at it from a holistic standpoint. Like, yes, what you're saying before is like 1 or 2, yes, more than likely she's going to be religious. I agree, because when a girl's more religious, she has these certain buffers in place to keep her from being super promiscuous, because these are things that used to be in place before. But what I am saying is that for most women, those things aren't necessarily a buffer anymore. Shame, that's pretty much eliminated. A girl can have sex with as many people as she wants. Hell, we got rap songs nowadays that glorify it. And a lot of people just aren't religious. So it's like, whatever.
Sure.
Okay, you had a point. I'm sorry it took so long to get back to you. Do you remember the point?
Yeah, because so we're talking about blue checks and oh, it's easier for a girl to fuck a guy with a blue check and this and this and that. Half of these people out here that are blue check verified are just bullshit at blue check verified. You have a kid and like a 20-year-old what is it, prospect athlete that has a fucking blue check. What makes you think I'm gonna respond back to his DM because he's a blue check? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It's a reference point. We're just saying the guy that actually has a blue check, for example,
followers,
with followers,
not like a 5,000 followers.
I want to make this very clear to all the ladies at the table. I am not saying that you are going to have sex with a guy with a blue check. I'm not saying you're going to have sex with a millionaire. I'm not saying you're going to have sex with a football star at your college campus. What I am saying is that these caliber of men will contact you. They will give you attention. And since you get contact and attention and potentially even resources from that caliber guy, and then you also got the simp that's walking up to you, giving you flowers for nothing more than you exist. Then you got a couple other guys on dating apps saying, I'll take you out, I'll fly you here, whatever. I'm not saying you actually enact on all the opportunities given to you. What I am saying is that those opportunities change how you view the world, and more importantly, how you view men. Oh, these guys are suckers. Now, some girls say, fuck that, I'm not taking that opportunity. I don't care. I want a guy, it is what it is. Some girls are able to distinguish, this guy's a loser, I want a guy that's actually good for me. But a lot of girls don't. A lot of girls use that to their advantage, and they take that male thirst and use it to their advantage. OnlyFans, being a stripper, maybe getting guys to pay them for sex, etc. All I am saying, right, is that we live in a simp economy, and a good amount of women are taking advantage of it. And not only that, in taking advantage of it, they tend to have a higher perceived status of where they stand, because they got a lot of guys that are hitting them up, which quite frankly, you go back 50, 70 years ago, a girl would be lucky to get 2 guys that come up to her that are worthy. Now she might get 200 guys that come up to her that are worthy.
Do you think, here's a question.
Sure.
So the broad argument is that men get into women's DMs and it fucks our expectations up for how they view men around them.
It's
right?
not just Instagram though.
Sure.
That's why I went
Instagram,
around
dating apps,
everything.
whatever the fuck, everything,
yeah,
right?
everything.
Do you think that women have dealt with a similar pressure for a long time because of beauty standards set in media and because of pornographic standards? Do you think that they feel standards to compete against those women on TV or
There's been that
porn?
way even before porn and before TV.
You know what? That's a fantastic point you brought up, Destiny. They have, but guess what? It's self-imposed. 100% self-imposed.
I think that when we
no
talk
guy
about
ever goes up to a
as
girl and
the-
says,
as
your
the-
nails don't match, bitch. Ugly.
Actually,
No, but guys
a
do.
lot of guys do.
okay.
a lot of guys notice that shit more than girls.
But not even that. Wouldn't you guys, you know, wouldn't your standards change if you were getting a DM from a girl with a blue check? Like if you fuck Megan Fox, aren't you gonna raise your standards a little
You know
bit?
what? Here's you know what's funny?
Very good point.
I did an experiment.
Yeah.
Let's go through it into a dream world.
I'm glad you said that.
I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah.
I did an experiment. I was doing a test for a dating app that I was releasing with a friend. To do the test, I was comparing using Tinder, right, with a boost versus not using a boost, and using a new account versus an older account. Okay, as you guys know, about 80% of Tinder users are men. It's very difficult for guys to get matches, etc. So you have to play around with the algorithm and find the best way to do it. So I was doing testing. One phone was a brand new account. The other phone, I ran a boost. Turned all my social media off. I had multiple Tinder accounts, and I swiped right and see what happened, right? 24 hours, turn the phones on, see a whole bunch of notifications. At that point, I was like, oh, this is lit. This is awesome. I'm the fucking man. And I had to kind of like fucking snap out of it. Like it hit me right there. Yo, imagine if I got this attention every day, all the time, for nothing more than the fact that I exist. I had to almost snap myself out of reality from all that validation from the opposite gender. Hot, like literally like 100 matches, different girls, hot. I was like, whoa, this is fucking awesome. Now for guys, they rarely experience that. They get that dopamine hit. So when it hit me, it was a foreign feeling. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But then I realized if I got this all the time, I would be a piece of shit. I would not have a need to self-improve. I would not feel like I need to understand the other gender. I would not feel like I have to be attractive for the other gender. I would think, I'm on a date with you. Impress me, bitch. Dance. Turn the Tory Lanez into this motherfucker. Dance, bitch. No.
Oh, God. Too soon.
Yeah, no. Well, we know he didn't do a good
Free
job
Tory.
of finding him guilty. Free Tory. But all jokes aside, I would not do anything to impress the opposite gender. Kind of like girls nowadays. They show up on a date. They're not interesting.
Astrology.
They ask dumb shit. They're not, they don't really bring a lot of critical thinking. No offense to you ladies. I'm not saying y'all, but I'm saying women in general. They don't feel the need to self-improve. It's like, you impress me, asshole. So all I'm saying is that a lot of girls fall into the category of how I felt for that 10 minutes, where I felt like I was on top of the world. Now imagine getting that a year, 2 years, 3 years. Since the time you're 15 years old and you're going through puberty and guys are hitting you up and it's compounding with the internet, it would make you have a certain type of mindset where people need to improve. People need to impress me. That's all I'm saying, is that a lot of girls have this compounding effect of getting a lot of attention, feeling like they're special, etc. And then they come on this podcast and I tell them, all right, well, you want a high status guy that has money, whatever, you got to share them with other girls. Oh my God, what do you mean? I'm special. I deserve a multimillionaire that's going to be faithful to only me. That's not how the world works. So that's all I'm saying. You got something? Megan Fox?
No, I agree with that, but I also think it's just, it brings up the egoism, but I also think it goes back to what we've been talking about this whole time, that the average girl does not get this much attention. Like I think Miami girls do, I think LA girls do.
Wait,
I don't know. I
really
don't think
can
so.
we pause on that?
I don't think they get that much attention.
Born and fucking raised in Miami, half of you people literally from the table aren't from here. So
Thank you.
being a Miami girl, like literally being born and raised in this shit for 22
We're from
years.
Homestead, but okay.
Homestead, Miami, I drive up
It's the
30
same
minutes.
shit.
It's
Are
the
you saying
same
you're not
shit.
getting that much
well, hold on, I will
Miami-Dade
say-
County, it's the same shit.
It's careful.
Are
My
you
parents live
saying
in
you're not
Homestead. I
getting
spent a
that
lot of
much
time in
attention?
Homestead, okay? There's fucking horses walking around. That's not the same thing
Be
as
fucking
Franklin.
for real. There's not horses walking around
My
except
parents
in the
live in
Redlands.
Homestead and their neighbors have horses.
In the Redlands.
I don't know where the
Redlands.
fuck. I just know the address is Homestead on the 30 whatever fucking Southwest Street. It's in Homestead, and there are horses.
Okay,
I'm
great.
just saying it's
So-
different than like Miami. Even when you say Miami, it's a big fucking city, right? If you go really far west, that's a totally different life. Or if you go to like a fucking Hialeah, that's a totally different
Okay,
world.
but
Yeah,
be
sorry.
fucking for real. Most of the shit you do to come up in most of the shit, even to work, there's not a job in Homestead. I'm working in Miami. So let's be fucking for real. Half of the bitches that are in Miami are not from Miami. A typical bitch from Miami does
does not have a million blue check niggas walking in her shit. You know why? Because you bitches are doing it for us.
Well, that's my point, though. The average girl does not have that many.
That's
blue
what I'm
checks.
trying
It
to
doesn't
agree
matter
with
where
you.
you're
Yes.
from. Absolutely, it doesn't even matter what city you're from.
But,
If you,
but the
No, but
average
it
girl,
does though, because you brought up Miami.
yeah, you're
So
right.
the average
Well,
girl
bigger
from
cities is
Miami.
for is for being intellectually and ethically unserious, which is to say, totally reckless, when he touches real issues in front of 120 million people on the platform. I mean, one of the first things Elon did after taking over Twitter was tweet an article that claimed that the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband was not at all what it seemed. It was rather a gay tryst gone wrong. And then when it became obvious just how crazy his source was, I believe it was a website that had previously claimed that Hillary Clinton was dead and that a body double was campaigning in her place, when it became embarrassing to have tweeted that, he just deleted the tweet without comment. Delete the tweet, fine, but when you see that you have amplified a crazy conspiracy theory that turns a savage attack on an innocent person into a Trumpist meme and punchline, you should apologize and correct the record. He did the same thing when he brought Kanye back on Twitter. He tweeted some meme that he was high-fiving him, and then deleted that meme without comment once Kanye's anti-Semitic contact was rolled around afterwards. Again, Kanye's anti-Semitism was already obvious, and Elon was signal boosting all that leniency by celebrating his return to Twitter in the first place. That was a totally irresponsible thing to do. And speaking of doxing and security concerns, Elon publicly vilified his former head of trust and safety, Yoel Roth, in a way that was objectively dangerous. This is from the New York Post, which you might imagine is very sympathetic to Elon now, given what happened over the Hunter Biden laptop story. And if anything, the Post is probably biased against Roth. This is how the Post reports what happened to Roth. Quote, Roth faced mounting threats following the release of the site's internal documents, which only intensified over the weekend when Musk misrepresented Roth's academic writing in a tweet, baselessly claiming Roth has a favorable view of pedophilia. This is now Elon's tweet. Looks like Yoel is arguing in favor of children being able to access adult internet services in his PhD thesis. End quote. This is back to the New York Post coverage. A barrage of threats were sent to people Roth had replied to on Twitter, and the menacing became so intense that several of his family and friends had to delete their Twitter accounts. Musk's supporters also directed their online harassment toward professors who reviewed Roth's dissertation, which was written in 2016, and his graduate school, the University of Pennsylvania. Roth, who is gay, suggested in his dissertation that gay dating apps like Grindr should adopt safety policies to accommodate teenagers who already use the app underage as a form of harm reduction on social media. Apparently, Roth and his family had to leave their home in response to all the hate that Elon's tweets directed at them. Now, this really does bother me, because Elon must have known that this kind of thing would happen. This is a version of the behavior that I thought should have gotten Trump and Alex Jones kicked off the court. It was always the specific targeting of private citizens that seemed most destructive to me. And now Elon is doing this at even greater scale, on the platform that he now owns. He appears to have done it to the whole Trust and Safety Board at Twitter after disbanding it. He accused them in a tweet of doing nothing to stop child exploitation on the platform. And Jack Dorsey later tweeted that this claim was false. In the current climate, this simply isn't an ordinary allegation. In any climate, it's a despicable one. But now Elon is directly pandering to the QAnon cult, whether he knows it or not, and he really should know it at this point. He has waded into a fever dream of misinformation. There are tens of millions of people in our society whose brains are seething with lies about the world being run by a pedophile crime syndicate, and Elon is doing more than dog whistle to them. He's just whistling to them. And when he tweets, my pronouns are prostitute Fauci, he's doing something quite similar. He's aiming an increasingly hysterical threat at a man who already has profound security concerns. And Elon is lending his reputation to this cult by seeming to validate its beliefs about how nefarious Fauci is, as though he had some inside information about the man's culpability in engineering the COVID pandemic to gain a functional research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, I don't know if Fauci has anything. Maybe he does. I would welcome an investigation into the origins of COVID. But I do know that it is totally irresponsible for Elon to be targeting Fauci for derision in front of a digital lynch mob. Elon is being followed by more than 120 million people now. There are at minimum some thousands in that audience who are completely deranged and dangerous. And most important, they are fixated on precisely the issues he's touching. I'm not saying these issues can't be touched responsibly. I did a full podcast on the problem of child sex trafficking and child pornography. These are real problems. We should be talking about them. I could do a whole podcast on the origins of COVID. It is totally legitimate to investigate that. But Elon is just spraying unsubstantiated, and in many cases obviously false accusations on Twitter. It is really dangerous. There's a responsibility that comes with being one of the richest people on Earth, as well as one of the most famous. Elon isn't just incidentally rich and famous. He's not a third-tier real estate developer who mostly just branded other people's buildings and then went bankrupt when he built his own crappy casinos, and then became a fake business genius on reality television for a decade. I mean, Trump was just a pure confection of Mark Burnett, and then he conned half of America into making him president. This was a guy who, as the owner of the Miss Teen USA pageant, would barge into the dressing rooms so that he could see 15-year-old girls naked. That was when he was in his 50s. This guy became president. We have Mark Burnett and Twitter to thank for that. After making us crazy with partisanship and misinformation, Twitter gave Trump the perfect platform to make noise and to lie and lie and lie about everything under the sun. I mean, the whole Trump phenomenon is like Twitter's vile afterbirth. But Elon is rich and famous for actually doing things of enormous consequence. He's literally putting the satellites into orbit that are in part determining the course of the war in Ukraine. This is something that apparently the U.S. government couldn't do even if it wanted to. It therefore matters what he tweets about that war. It matters when he trolls U.S. senators and the UN. He has major business interests in China with Tesla. It matters that he tweets obviously self-interested and ill-considered things about the status of Taiwan. If we become a multiplanetary species, specifically if we build a colony on Mars in this century, and if we transition to renewable energy and mitigate climate change faster than we otherwise would have, if we fully develop autonomous vehicles and save tens of thousands of lives each year in the US, and tens of thousands more in Europe, and perhaps hundreds of thousands each year elsewhere, Elon will have had a lot to do with those developments. He's been making extraordinary contributions to very good and interesting things. However, he's also making a terrible amount of noise. More or less everything he has done on Twitter, and here I'm really focused on his personal use of the platform, not the changes he's made as its owner, almost everything he tweets has demonstrated a trollish, cynical, and very adolescent approach to dealing with hard societal problems. Elon keeps tweeting, "Twitter's on fire. Whole parts of our society are on fire. Our social contract is on fire." Something like 40% of America has its entire political life currently organized around a deranged lie that the 2020 election was stolen. And these are the people you are now pandering to with all your fake free speech absolutism. The tragedy of all of this is I know Elon to be an extraordinarily competent person who actually wants to do good things in the world. Twitter has amplified his worst instincts. Does he have a right to be on Twitter, just fucking around? Of course he does. Should he be? Absolutely not. I mean, when you're getting brain surgery, how much fun do you want your surgeon to be having? Do you want him to be just dancing around the OR? You want him taking a break to check Instagram? Do you want him taking calls from conspiracy theorists who think that there's a totally different way to perform the surgery he's now in the middle of? Elon is effectively performing surgery on significant parts of our culture, and he's just fucking around. As I said, it's the lack of intellectual and moral seriousness that bothers me. And this is what has always bothered me about Trump. That and all the lying. And then his attempt to actually steal an election and subvert our democracy. Little things like that. It's not an accident that Elon is now the darling of Trumpistan. Someone wrote online that Elon has become the next MyPillow guy. That is a lacerating observation, because there is way too much truth to it. He is now QAnon adjacent in the types of people he's forming alliances with, publicly, on Twitter. It is utterly bizarre and destructive. Now, as to whether Elon will eventually improve Twitter, I have no idea. I certainly wouldn't bet against him making Twitter a better business, and even a fairer platform. He absolutely loves Twitter, obviously, so it's getting a lot of his attention. My fundamental criticism of him here is about his personal use of Twitter. Anyway, the problem of misinformation and lying online isn't going away, and I suspect it'll only get worse. And AI is almost certainly going to make it worse, before perhaps ultimately making it better. And I look forward to getting into the deeper issues here with smart people in the months to come, and paying more attention to things that actually matter. I'm looking forward to reading some good books in particular, and discussing them on this podcast. I think I might also do some live events for the first time in a while. And there's some big changes coming over at Waking Up that I'm very excited about. And generally, I'm hoping to just become more sane insofar as I can manage that. Perhaps we can all do that together in the new year. As always, thanks for listening.